Have you ever wondered what kinds of creatures once roamed the earth long before us? Creatures so strange, so powerful, or just so bizarre that it's probably a good thing they're no longer around? Tonight, we'll gently drift through time as we explore 10 animals you should be very glad are extinct. Not because they're terrifying, but because they make modern wildlife look tame by comparison. So get comfortable, take a deep breath, and settle in. By the way, what time are you listening to this tonight? Whether it's early evening or deep in the middle of the night, you're in the right place, because we're not here to shock or scare you. We're here to slow down, quietly visit the ancient past, one animal at a time. Let's begin. Long before humans looked up and imagined dragons, something even stranger once filled the skies. It wasn't a bird. Though it had wings, it wasn't a dinosaur, though it lived among them. And it certainly wasn't small. Its name was Quetzalcoatlus. Let's ease into this gentle journey together. Quetzalcoatlus belonged to a group of flying reptiles known as pterosaurs, and although it wasn't the only one of its kind, it was likely the largest to ever take flight, with a wingspan estimated between 33 and 36 feet, about the size of a small airplane. This creature would have cast a haunting shadow across the ground as it glided over what is now North America. But despite its intimidating wings, its body was surprisingly lightweight, built for soaring rather than fighting. Quetzalcoatlus didn't flap around like today's birds. Instead, probably relied on thermal updrafts, warm columns of air rising from the ground to glide effortlessly for miles at a time. Some paleontologists think it could launch itself into the air using powerful hind limbs, like a four-legged vault, before stretching its wings and disappearing into the clouds. And while we can't say for sure what it sounded like, soothing to imagine the rhythmic whoosh of leathery wings in a windless, prehistoric sky. Down below, forests swayed and rivers glimmered, as this airborne titan scanned the earth for something to eat. But here's where things get a little more mysterious, because scientists still debate what Quetzalcoatlus actually ate. Some believe it may have hunted like a modern-day stork, stalking shallow riverbeds on foot, plucking fish, small reptiles, or even baby dinosaurs from the water's edge. Others think it may have scavenged like a vulture, using its sharp beak and excellent eyesight to locate the remains of larger animals from above. Either way, it wasn't a predator that chased down its prey, yet was a patient observer, quietly waiting for the right moment. Its long, toothless beak may have looked odd, even awkward, but it was perfectly suited for probing and snapping up food. Its neck was also unusually long and stiffed almost like a built-in balance beam to help guide its head during flight and foraging. Standing on land, Quetzalcoatlus may have been as tall as a modern giraffe. Just imagine something that massive, slowly walking across a field, wings folded, head tilting from side to side, completely silent. And yet, despite its incredible size and presence, it wasn't invincible like all pterosaurs. Quetzalcoatlus lived near the end of the Cretaceous period, roughly 70 million years ago. It disappeared during the mass extinction event that wiped out most of the dinosaurs, likely triggered by a giant asteroid impact. In a matter of geological moments, the skies that once carried these majestic gliders became dark and inhospitable still. The fossils of Quetzalcoatlus remain, like bookmarks from another chapter of Earth's history. Its bones were hollow, fragile, and incredibly light-making, then hard to preserve, and even harder to find. Yet, what little we do have tells a gentle story of grace, precision, and balance in a world where survival was often chaotic. There's something oddly comforting in knowing that a creature so massive, is alien-looking to our modern eyes, wasn't necessarily dangerous in the traditional sense. It didn't roar or fit, it simply soared, observed, and endured. So tonight, if you find yourself drifting off under a ceiling or a starry sky, imagine the silent wings of Quetzalcoatlus gliding above you. drifting between clouds as if time itself had paused. The world was quieter then, in many ways, and though this sky titan is long gone, the calm it evokes still lingers. Long before the age of dinosaur, before the mighty roar of Tyrannosaurus rex echoed through ancient valleys, there was another apex predator, stalking the earth in silence and shadow. Its name was Gorgonops, a creature that lived over 250 million years ago, during the Permian period, in a time so distant it almost feels imaginary. And yet, this creature was very real. Imagine something that looked part reptile, part mammal, with piercing eyes and two curved saber teeth that could slice through flesh like butter. Gorgonops wasn't large by today's standards, only about the size of a modern wolf or a big cat. But in its time, it was king. Let's gently step back into that forgotten world. The landscape of the Permian wasn't the lush, green jungle you might expect. Instead, it was a hot, dry place full of sprawling deserts, volcanic plains, and strange-looking vegetation. There were no flowering plants yet, no grass, no birds chirping in the background. Just the rustle of ferns, the slow clatter of primitive insects, and the distant movement of reptiles sliding across the sand. In this quiet and surreal world, Gorgonops hunted alone. It belonged to a group of animals known as theropsids, sometimes called mammal-like reptiles, and it was one of the first creatures to show traits that would eventually lead to mammals like us. Its limbs were positioned more underneath its body, not splayed out like a lizard's, which gave it the ability to run in short bursts. Its skull was long, narrow, and beautifully adapted to hold those saber-like canine teeth blades it likely used to strike quickly and fatally. Despite its fearsome reputation, Gorgonops was not a giant terror, was a patient, precise predator. It likely stalked the edges of dried riverbeds or crept through the underbrush of prehistoric forests, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike its prey. Mostly herbivorous reptiles and other small animals, slow-moving, unaware of the sudden danger that could emerge from behind a rock or twisted tree when Gorgonops bit down. Its saber teeth would sink deeply into flesh, severing vital arteries and bringing a quick end to the hunt. But after the kill, silence again, no loud growls, no fights over food. Gorgonops, like many predators of its time, probably fed quickly and quietly, then disappeared back into the terrain, blending with the earth and the dust. Its body was muscular but not bulky, its tail long and balanced, its eyes forward-facing, giving it binocular vision, an essential tool for judging distance and timing, especially for a creature that relied on ambush. And even though it looked reptilian, there's evidence that its skin may not have been covered in scales. Some scientists speculate that it may have had a smoother, more leathery texture, perhaps even an early form of fur, though that's still debated. What's fascinating is that Gorgonops came so early in evolutionary history. It was one of the dominant predators of its time. And then it vanished, not from weakness, but because of a far greater event at the end of the Permian period. Around 252 million years ago, the Earth experienced the most devastating extinction event in its history. Its great dying, over 90% of marine species and around 70% of land animals disappeared. Volcanic eruptions released enormous amounts of greenhouse gases, triggering a chain reaction of global warming, acid rain, and oxygen depletion. Gorgonops, along with most of its relatives, was wiped out. In this ecological collapse, its disappearance marked the end of an era of strange, early experiments in evolution, where nature was still figuring out what worked and what didn't. But for a brief moment in time, this saber-toothed reptile ruled its world, and while it may look fierce in reconstructions, with its fangs bared and eyes locked in a predator's stare, there's something oddly calming about its story. It reminds us that the Earth has been through more changes than we can ever truly comprehend, that entire lineages have come and gone before humanity was even a dream, and that for all their power and mystery, even the most fearsome creatures eventually return to the dust. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine the quiet deserts of the Permian, the the low hum of wind through scorched canyons, the rustle of something moving low to the ground, and then, for just a moment, the silent appearance of Gorgonops. It doesn't roar, it doesn't sprint, it just watches. A creature of focus, of instinct, of pure survival, and then, like so many echoes of the past, it slips back into the shadows and vanishes, no longer a threat, no longer real, just another page in Earth's quiet, endless story. Far before modern humans arrived with their villages and stories, long before there were highways or power lines or even the first wheel, the forests of Southeast Asia were home to a massive, mysterious primate that dwarfed all others. Its name was Gigantopithecus, name that rolls off the tongue like something from a bedtime tale, and yet it was entirely real. This giant ape could have stood over 10 feet tall when upright and weighed more than 1,000 pounds, making it by far the largest primate to have ever existed. But unlike the monsters of movies or folklore, Gigantopithecus wasn't a fearsome predator. It was a gentle forager, moving quietly through the forest floor in search of fruit, leaves, and perhaps bamboo shoots, like a giant shadow that never needed to roar. Tonight, let's gently walk into that ancient forest together, the world that Gigantopithecus knew was warm, humid, and lush. Dense canopies of green leaves stretched high above the ground, filtering light into soft beams that danced between trees, vines draped from towering trunks, and the ground was layered in thick moss, soft soil, and the quiet shuffling of 1,000 small creatures hidden beneath the foliage. Gigantopithecus was not alone in this environment, but it was unmatched in size. It lived alongside early elephants, primitive deer, crocodiles, and many kinds of birds, but none could match its towering presence, nor its tranquil pace, unlike today's gorillas who use their arms to help walk. Gigantopithecus may have moved on all fours in a way that was both slow and steady. Its massive limbs were likely strong enough to tear bamboo from its roots, and its jaw was unusually large, wide enough to grind through tough vegetation with ease. It didn't chase, and it didn't fight. It simply existed in harmony with its world, relying on its strength not to dominate, but to survive. Its teeth, massive molars with thick enamel, suggest a diet of hardy plant material. Imagine it gently plucking fruit from a high branch, then sitting beneath the shade of a tree to chew slowly, unbothered by the noise of the smaller creatures around it. Though it was enormous, it likely made very little sound. Its footsteps were muffled by the forest floor, its breathing steady and deep, and its gaze, if you can picture it, might have been intelligent, reflective of the ancient wisdom carried in the eyes of all great apes. But even giants face challenges. Gigantopithecus lived between 2 million and 300,000 years ago. That's recent in geological terms. Recent enough that early human ancestors might have seen one in the distance, mistaking it for a towering spirit or forest god. Yet, for all its strength and size, could not survive the changes coming to its world as the Ice Age arrived. The climate began to shift. Forests shrank, giving way to grasslands. Food sources dwindled, and new competitors, perhaps early humans or other mammals, began to encroach on its territory. Some researchers believe it couldn't adapt fast enough to the new diet required by the changing environment. Others suggest it was simply too large for the evolving ecosystem to support, unlike smaller primates who could climb and leap and shift between different habitats. Gigantopithecus was limited by its mass and mobility. It faded away, not in violence, but in quiet, its story ending not with a roar, but with the long, slow silence of extinction, and yet its legacy remains. Some even believe that stories of Bigfoot or the Yeti are echoes of human memory, fragments passed down through generations about an animal that once existed, just real enough to be remembered, just mysterious enough to become myth. Gigantopithecus fossils are rare but powerful. Most of what we know comes from teeth and jaw fragments found in Chinese and Southeast Asian caves, is often buried under layers of sediment and time. No complete skeleton has ever been found. No photograph exists. No bones that show us what its arms or spine or feet truly looked like. And yet, from these pieces, scientists have built a gentle picture of what once was a massive primate, shaggy, perhaps peaceful, patient, and part of a forest that no longer exists. As you lie back now, letting your breath slow and your eyelids fall heavy. Picture that ancient forest, dark but warm, alive with the soft call of unseen birds, a breeze rustling through the branches far above, and somewhere among the trees, slow footsteps approach a branch, bends under an invisible weight, and a figure moves between the trunks, not menacing, not frightening, but old, noble. God, not quiet. That was Gigantopithecus, not a monster, not a myth. God, but a gentle reminder that nature once allowed for giants who didn't need to conquer or hunt, and that even the greatest of beings could simply vanish with the world that once sustained them tonight. We don't remember Gigantopithecus to be afraid. We remember it to feel small, to feel calm, and to feel connected to a past that no longer breathes, but once, long ago, quietly did. There are some creatures whose entire existence is known from only a single fossil, a fragment of time preserved in stone. Androsarchus is one of them. All we have of this animal is one skull, but it is no ordinary skull. It is nearly 3 feet long, with massive, bone-crushing teeth, and a jaw that suggests power beyond anything else from its time. From this one skull, scientists have imagined the body that might have carried it, the size, the shape, the habits. And even though no one can say for certain what Androsarchus really looked like, what we do know is enough to tell a sleepy story from long ago, during the Eocene epoch, nearly 45 million years in the past. Back then, the world was warmer, wetter, and very different from today. Oceans were higher. Forests covered much of the land. Mammals were beginning to take over from the reptiles that once ruled the earth. In what is now Mongolia, a solitary predator may have walked across open plains and ancient riverbeds. Its footsteps were heavy, deliberate, and possibly silent. The creature was Androsarchus, a name that sounds sharp and ancient all at once. Although we have only a single skull to study, that skull is enough to stir the imagination. It was discovered in the early 1920s, buried in layers of ancient earth, and brought back to light by scientists who could hardly believe what they had found. The skull alone measures nearly 1 meter in length. It is long and narrow, with thick, powerful jaws. Each tooth is rounded and reinforced, suggesting a diet that involved breaking bone. This creature was likely a scavenger and a hunter, eating meat, bones, and whatever else it could find. Because we have no complete skeleton, the body of Androsarchus remains a mystery. But scientists have used educated guesses and comparisons with other species to imagine what it might have looked like. Some think it resembled a massive wolf or hyena. Others believe it had a more boar-like appearance with thick legs and a bulky body. Most reconstructions place it around 6 feet tall at the shoulder, with a length of over 12 feet from nose to tail. If those estimates are true, Androsarchus would have been one of the largest land-dwelling meat-eaters of his time. But even though it may have been large and powerful, it likely lived alone. There is no evidence of packs or group behavior. Androsarchus may have been a wanderer, traveling the quiet wilderness in search of food. Its territory would have included coastal areas, open grasslands, and river valleys. The environment was humid and seasonal. Rain would have fallen in bursts. The sky might have been streaked with clouds, and the ground rich with plant life. Smaller animals would have scurried out of the way when it appeared. Its presence would have been enough to silence the area around it. Quiet dominance, not needing to roar or chase. It may have followed the scent of decaying flesh or the sound of a weakened animal nearby. Its sense of smell was likely strong, guided by a long snout and wide nasal passages. Drusus was part of a group of animals known as Massanechids. These strange creatures are now all extinct. They are not quite like any animal alive today. Oddly enough, Androsarchus may have been more closely related to whales and hippos than to wolves or lions. This makes its place in history even more unusual. A distant relative of sea mammals, roaming the land in solitude. Its story cut off before we could learn more. It lived roughly 45 million years ago and vanished not long after. The earth kept changing. New species arrived. Forests thinned. Climates cooled, and Androsarchus slowly faded into extinction. Its body returned to the soil, but its skull remained. That one piece tells a quiet story about a world where size and strength were not enough to ensure survival. Still, there is something peaceful about imagining Androsarchus walking alone under a prehistoric sky. The sound of wind passing through tall grass, the distant call of unfamiliar birds, the slow press of padded feet on soft ground. No battles, chaos, just the rhythm of existence in a world untouched by humans. As you rest now, picture this animal not as a monster, but as a part of Earth's long, endless cycle. A creature that lived and disappeared long before we ever arrived. Let the image settle in your mind. A giant predator, moving calmly, unhurried by time. Each breath deep and slow. Each moment quiet. Fossils are humbling in their quiet honesty. They do not exaggerate. They do not rush. They simply hold space for the lives that once were. In the case of Androsarchus, we are given just enough to wonder, but not enough to know. That space between fact and imagination becomes a gentle place for the mind to rest. We are not disturbed by the unknown. Instead, we are calmed by it. When you think about how large the earth is and how many creatures have walked upon it, it becomes easier to release the urgency of the present moment. Time stretches back endlessly behind us and forward into the unknown. Androsarchus walked in one of those ancient chapters. It did not leave behind grand monuments or cities. It did not paint caves or carve stones. It simply lived. That, in itself, was enough. It may have slept under open skies, in shallow hollows, or beside still water. It may have listened to the sound of rain tapping against the ground, just as you hear it on your window now, if you are lucky. Its world was no less real than ours, no less alive. It just moved to a slower rhythm. Now, as you feel your breath rise and fall, and your body settle more deeply into the warmth of rest, allow yourself to drift alongside it. Imagine the silence after dusk in an Eocene landscape, the sky fading into soft blues, insects beginning their slow chorus, and somewhere nearby an ancient creature settles into rest, unaware of extinction, unaware of the millions of years that will pass after it is gone. All it knows is quiet, stillness, the comfort of night. So sleep now, gently, like Androsarchus may have slept beneath the ancient stars, and let its quiet legacy guide you into dreams. Imagine a bird as tall as a grown man with powerful legs made for sprinting, a heavy hooked beak like an axe, and eyes that stared forward with focus. This was not the kind of bird you'd find singing outside your window. These were the Pheresusidae, known in modern times as the terror birds. But as fierce as their name sounds, they lived in a world that has long since faded. And tonight, their footsteps echoed not with fear, but with curiosity and wonder. Pheresusidae existed for millions of years, mostly in South America, during a time when that continent was isolated from the rest of the world. In this strange, separated land, mammals were evolving in unusual ways, and among them, these enormous, flightless birds rose to dominance. They ranged widely in size. Some species stood just over 3 feet tall, while others reached nearly 10 feet in height. The largest, such as Kalenkin, towered over most humans and may have weighed over 400 pounds. Their strong legs suggest they were built for short bursts of incredible speed, perhaps up to 30 or 40 miles per hour. In the silence of prehistoric grasslands, they would have moved like shadows, swift and focused. Unlike modern birds of prey, they could not fly. Their wings were small and useless for lifting into the sky, but they did not need to fly. The land was theirs, with curved, sharp beaks and strong necks. Ferruciracids likely hunted by striking downward like a hammer onto their prey. They may have used their beaks to grab small mammals, reptiles, or even other birds, shaking them violently before swallowing them whole or tearing them apart. Yet for all their strength, they were not mindless killers. They were simply part of the balance of life at the time. Apex predators, yes, but not monsters. They hunted to live. They moved to survive, okay? And like everything in nature, they followed the rhythms of their environment. Open plains, light forests, and dry savannas stretched across ancient South America. The air would have been warm and filled with the calls of other strange animals, now lost to time. Herds of grazing mammals may have dotted the horizon. Small rodents and marsupials rustled in the brush. And somewhere nearby, the soft crunch of a large bird's foot pressed into dry soil. Their lives were not ruled by noise or chaos. Though they could chase and strike, much of their time may have been spent walking slowly, watching the land, listening for movement. They may have nested in tall grass or hidden places, laying large eggs and guarding them carefully. We do not know exactly what their nests looked like. We have no fossilized feathers and no preserved footprints with certainty, but the clues we do have allow our minds to gently fill in the blanks. It is easy to imagine one standing still at dawn, mist curling around its legs as the sun begins to rise above the trees, quiet, alone, waiting. For shrew trees thrived for a long time, from around 60 million years ago until just a few million years ago. But their reign began to end when South America connected with North America. The land bridge between the two continents allowed new animals to migrate south, new predators, new competition, and humans much later. The terror birds, so specialized and dominant in their isolated ecosystem, could not adapt quickly enough. Over time, they disappeared. Their extinction was not sudden. There was no great meteor or volcano to blame, simply faded, generation by generation, as the world around them changed. Today, all that remains are fossilized bone-strong leg bones, pieces of skulls, and that famous hooked beak. These remains tell the quiet story of a bird that ruled with strength and speed, but not with cruelty. They are gone, but their mystery lingers. In museums, their skeletons rise like statues, gaze. In books and reconstructions, they seem frozen mid-step, but in your imagination, you can let them move again. As you lie back and close your eyes, picture a wide and quiet plain, touched by the soft glow of the setting sun. In the distance, a single bird walks alone. It is tall and elegant, not clumsy, not awkward, but confident and calm. It does not chase, does not screech, simply walks, its feet pressed gently into the dry ground. Its feathers ruffle softly in the breeze, its head tilts to listen to the wind. It is part of its world, moving without hurry. That was the world of Pharos Racidae, time before noise, before cities, before the endless rush, a time when even the fiercest creatures lived by listening, watching, and waiting. Let that image settle into your mind. Let it lull you deeper into rest. Let the distant footsteps of a terror bird gently lead you into sleep. Beneath the surface of ancient oceans, where light faded and the world grew quiet, swam a predator unlike any other. Its name was Megalodon. This was not just another shark. It was the largest shark to ever exist, and perhaps one of the largest predators to ever live on Earth. But its story, like all those told tonight, is not meant to frighten. It is meant to remind us of a time when the ocean whispered with the motion of giants. Megalodon lived approximately 23 to 3.6 million years ago. During that time, Earth's oceans were warmer and teeming with marine life. Whales, giant sea turtles, early seals, and many other animals roamed the deep blue, and Megalodon was the silent force swimming among them. Estimates suggest it may have reached lengths of over 50 feet. Some reconstructions suggest even more, perhaps 60 feet or longer. Its jaws alone could span more than 10 feet across, lined with rows of thick, triangular teeth. Each one could grow up to 7 inches long. A megalodon was not constantly attacking. Like many apex predators, it likely spent long hours gliding through the water, calm and unbothered. It may have followed slow-moving currents, using little energy as it surveyed its surroundings. Its size meant it had few, if any, threats, and its meals, when they came, were likely swift. Fossilized whale bones with bite marks show how powerful its jaws were. But these bones do not speak of chaos. They speak of precision. In the quiet world beneath the waves, Megalodon may have used the cover of murky water to approach its prey. A sudden burst of speed, a deep lunge, and then silence once more. Despite its fearsome image, Megalodon's life was shaped more by rhythm than violence. It swam with the pulse of the ocean. It rose with the tides. It descended into darkness. Its body, like many sharks, was built for efficiency, streamlined, strong, able to move long distances without tiring. Some believe it may have given birth to live young in shallow, protected bays. Coney megalodons, still several feet long, would have been born into warm, coastal nurseries. From there, they would grow slowly, taking years or even decades to reach their full size. Its teeth, those iconic relics, are what we remember most today. Fossils of megalodon teeth have been found all over the world, evidence of just how widespread this giant once was. The teeth are thick and serrated, perfectly shaped to bite through bone and flesh. But these teeth also tell us something gentle. They fall out naturally over time, like all shark teeth. Thousands were left behind, each one a quiet record of presence, not of attack, just of life. Yet, one day, the giant vanished. We do not know exactly why Megalodon went extinct. There are theories, and each one holds a quiet truth. One idea is that climate change cooled the oceans. Water temperatures dropped. The warm regions Megalodon depended on began to shrink. Another theory suggests competition from smaller, more agile predators may have reduced its food supply. Others believe its own large size became a burden, requiring more food than the ocean could offer. Most likely, it was a combination of all these things, and so the last Megalodon faded away. There was no dramatic ending, no final battle, just the gradual disappearance of a creature that once ruled without noise. What remains today are the teeth, smooth, stone-like fossils, found on beaches, tucked in riverbeds, stored in drawers and museums. They are often mistaken for other things, so someone looks closer, runs a thumb along the edge, and realizes they are holding a piece of ancient history. As you lie back now, breathing gently, imagine the ocean stretching endlessly in all directions. There is no traffic, no voices, no light beyond what filters down in narrow beams. Below the surface, time slows, sound softens, and all around is water in motion. From the darkness below, a shape begins to rise. Not menacing, not aggressive, just enormous, moving with purpose, Invictus. It does not roar, it does not chase, it simply swims. Its tail sways, its fins hold balance, its eyes scan the world with steady calm. It passes through the deep like a thought through sleep, present, then gone. That is how Megalodon lived. And that is how we remember it. As your body grows heavier and your thoughts begin to drift, let this ancient presence guide you deeper into rest. Let the quiet rhythm of the sea and the gentle weight of time lull you. Tonight, Megalodon does not frighten. It reassures us that even the mightiest creatures can live peacefully, and that all things eventually become part of the stillness. In the frozen stillness of the last ice age, when towering glaciers covered much of the earth and mammoths moved slowly through snow-covered valleys, there lived a predator whose appearance captured the imagination of every age that followed. It was not a tiger, despite its popular nickname, but a member of a novinished branch of big cats. This was Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat. What made Smilodon unforgettable were the two elongated canine teeth that curved down like ivory daggers from its upper jaw. These teeth, sometimes more than 7 inches long, defined its face and hinted at a hunting style unlike anything seen today. They were not just weapons, they were tools of precision, evolved for specific moments of deadly efficiency. Smilodon was built differently from the big cats we know now. Its body was stocky and powerful, with thick bones and short, muscular legs designed for explosive bursts of power. It wasn't made to chase its prey over long distances like a cheetah, or to leap gracefully like a leopard. Instead, Smilodon was a creature of ambush. It likely crept slowly through the underbrush or tall grass, waited with patience, and when the moment was right, struck with sudden, overwhelming force. The world it lived in was vast, wild, and cold. Sprawling plains, dense forests, and frozen tundras stretched across what is now North and South America. Great herds of animals wandered the landscape: giant ground sloths, ancient bison, camel-like creatures, and the woolly mammoth. These were the Ice Age megafauna, and among them, Smilodon was a top predator, stalking the silence. Fossils of Smilodon have been found across the Americas, but the richest collection comes from the La Brea tar pits in what is now Los Angeles. For thousands of years, these sticky pools trapped unsuspecting animals, and predators, like Smilodon, drawn to the struggle, were caught too. Their bones were preserved in thick layers of asphalt, and today, those remains tell a quiet, detailed story of life and death at the edge of survival. Despite its fearsome reputation, Smilodon was not constantly hunting. Like all big cats, it probably spent much of its time resting in shaded areas or curled up near rocky overhangs, licking its fur clean, breathing slowly, listening. The life of a predator is not all violence. It is mostly waiting. It is stillness, is focus. Some fossil sites contain Smilodon bones from different individuals of varying ages found together, which suggests that it may not have been entirely solitary. It's possible that Smilodon lived in small social groups, perhaps a mother with young or loose bands of related cats. Though we cannot say for certain, the idea of Smilodon as a social animal brings an added layer of calm to its image, less a lonely predator, and more a quiet guardian of its kin. Those enormous teeth, while intimidating, were also delicate. They were not suited to biting down on thick bone, as a hyena might do. Instead, Smilodon probably used them carefully, slicing into the softer areas of its prey, like the throat or belly, after bringing it down with its powerful forelimbs. Its precision, this control, shows an animal that was not brutish, but deliberate. Smilodon didn't need to be the fastest. It needed to be accurate. It needed to be calm. And in that calm, it thrived for thousands of years. But like all animals in this series, Smilodon eventually vanished around 10,000 years ago. As the Ice Age came to an end, the climate began to change. Temperatures rose, forests shifted, grasslands expanded. Many of the large herbivores Smilodon depended on began to die out. At the same time, a new presence appeared on the landscape: humans. Whether from hunting or indirect pressure, humans likely played some role in the extinction of Smilodon, along with many other large animals. Smilodon did not go out with a roar. It hated quietly. Its last breath lost to wind and time, and yet its bones remained, preserved in tar and soil, in ancient caves, waiting to be found. Today, we see reconstructions of Smilodon in museums, mouth open in a silent snarl, its saber teeth exposed for all to see. But that frozen image captures only a single moment. It does not show the quiet hours, the slow walks through pine forests, the gentle yawn before sleep, the steady blink of eyes watching a snowy hill. So tonight, if your body feels heavy with the day and your mind begins to drift, imagine Smilodon, not as a creature of chaos, but of rhythm. Picture it sitting beside a low hill at dusk, its fur thick against the cold wind. Snowflakes fall lightly across its back as it blinks slowly, calmly. In the distance, a herd of ancient bison moves past, hooves crunching in snow, unaware of the watching eyes that make no move. There is no chase, no struggle, just the stillness of twilight. The sky above fades from blue to gray. A crescent moon begins to rise. The smell of pine fills the cold air. And the saber-toothed cat, a creature older than memory, lowers its head to rest. Its breathing is slow and deep, its muscles soft and uncoiled. Its thoughts, if it had them, are simple and present. In that moment, it is not fierce, it is not extinct. It simply is. Let that image stay with you. Let it guide you deeper into comfort, into slowness, into peace. Smilodon's time has passed, but its echo remains, not just in bones, or museums, or science, but in the part of us that recognizes beauty in stillness, strength in silence, and the stories that live just beneath the surface of sleep. There are places in nature where time seems to slow, where still water reflects the sky, bad, and the only sound is the soft splash of something moving just beneath the surface. It is in these quiet moments, these hidden corners of swamps and rivers, that crocodilians thrive. And millions of years ago, one of them was larger, stronger, and more powerful than any alive today. Its name was Deinosuchus, and its name means terrible crocodile. But tonight, as we drift into the past, we will not fear this creature. We will meet it slowly, peacefully, as it once moved through ancient rivers, beneath ferns, and beneath stars. Deinosuchus lived around 80 to 70 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period. It swam in the warm, murky waters of what is now North America, in regions that once formed part of a vast inland sea that split the continent in two. Swamps, estuaries, and winding river channels covered the landscape, teeming with life and rich with vegetation. This was a time when dinosaurs roamed the land, but in the water, Deinosuchus was king. Estimates suggest that Deinosuchus could grow up to 35 feet long, perhaps longer. That is more than twice the size of the largest crocodiles alive today. Its skull alone measured over 6 feet, filled with massive teeth shaped not just for gripping, but for crushing. Unlike the narrow snouts of today's fish-eating gharials, Deinosuchus had a broad, heavy head designed for incredible force. It could clamp down on bones, shells, or anything else unfortunate enough to pass too close. And yet, Deinosuchus did not roar. It did not chase its prey across land. It waited. Like modern crocodiles, Deinosuchus was a master of stillness. It would have spent much of its life motionless, half submerged, the ridges of its eyes and nostrils just above the surface. It likely waited near the water's edge, where dinosaurs came to drink or bathe. With one powerful lunge, it could drag even a large creature into the water, pulling it into silence. But most of the time, it did not strike. It basked in the sun. It floated with the current. It moved slowly through the reeds, leaving only a ripple behind. The key's days were measured not in action, but in stillness, and its strength, as great as it was rarely used in full. Fossil evidence supports the idea that Deinosuchus may have preyed upon dinosaurs. Marks have been found on fossilized dinosaur bones that match the size and shape of Deinosuchus' teeth, but we cannot know how often these attacks occurred. It may have scavenged, just as often as it hunted. A dead dinosaur drifting near the water's edge would have offered an easy, unchallenged meal. The terrible crocodile needed only to open its jaws. Its diet may have also included turtles, fish, and marine reptiles. Fossils of ancient turtles have been found with shells cracked in ways that suggest crushing force, perhaps the result of Deinosuchus' jaws. And so, it was not a picky eater. It ate what was available, what came close, what could be swallowed or broken. Despite its enormous size, Deinosuchus may have lived a life of surprise and quiet. It did not need to dominate the land, because the water gave it everything it needed: protection, food, camouflage, and warmth. Its armor-like skin, made of thick, bony plates called osteoderms, made it nearly impossible to harm. Its powerful tail and webbed limbs allowed it to move with deceptive speed, especially in shallow water. But again, it rarely needed to rush. It is easy to imagine it resting at the bottom of a river, eyes closed, lungs filled with air. For long stretches, it would not move. The silt would settle around its body. Tiny fish would swim nearby. The world would forget it was there again. Over time, as the Cretaceous period neared its end, Deinosuchus slowly disappeared. The environment began to change. Sea levels shifted. River systems dried or moved. The delicate balance that allowed Deinosuchus to grow so large began to tilt. Competition from newer species may have played a role. So may have changes in temperature or prey availability. And eventually, this massive crocodile, ruler of the waterways, vanished. All that remains today are fragments of fossilized bones and teeth pieces of armor, portions of skulls, ridged vertebrae. Paleontologists have slowly pieced them together, drawing quiet conclusions from worn stone: the shape of its skull, the grooves for blood vessels, the attachment points for muscles. All these silent details help tell its story. And what is perhaps most humbling is that Deinosuchus is not an isolated monster. It is part of a long and unbroken line of crocodilians that has lasted for more than 200 million years. Its ancestors walked beside early dinosaurs. Its relatives live among us now. The crocodile we know today is a living echo of Deinosuchus. Smaller, yes, but similar in spirit. That calm stare, that motionless patience, that sudden power when needed, all of it still exists. So tonight, as you close your eyes and your breathing slows, picture a quiet river at dusk. The water is smooth, reflecting the fading light of the sky. In the shallows, reeds sway gently in the breeze. Dragonflies skim across the surface. And beneath it all, something large, ancient, and still waits. You do not see it, you do not hear it, but you feel its presence, a calm weight beneath the water. Not hunting, not chasing, teasing. Deinosuchus is there, beneath the surface of time. Not to frighten you, but to remind you how slow and patient life can be, how strength can rest quietly, how the greatest creatures do not always move the fastest or make the most noise. Let your thoughts drift like water. Let your body grow heavy like the earth. And let Deinosuchus pass through your dreams, not as a monster, but as a guardian of stillness. It ruled its world without words, without fire, without fear. And now it slips gently into memory. Long before dinosaurs ever took a step on land, before birds filled the sky or mammals curled in dens, the earth was ruled by oceans. These waters were home to creatures as strange as they were silent. And among them swam one of the most powerful predators the world had ever seen. Its name was Dunkleosteus. This fish, though long extinct, still holds a place in the story of life's earliest chapters. It lived more than 350 million years ago, during the Devonian period of time, often called the Age of Fishes. The oceans then were warm, shallow, and full of new life experimenting with shape, movement, and form. Dunkleosteus was not a sleek swimmer, was not delicate or small. It was a giant armored fish, sometimes growing more than 20 feet long. Instead of teeth, it had thick, sharp plates fused together at the front of its skull, forming a powerful beak capable of slicing through flesh and bone. Its head was covered in heavy, bony armor shaped like a helmet, giving it a fierce appearance. But despite how it may look in reconstructions, it was not a monster. It was part of the sea's natural rhythm, moving with purpose, feeding to live, resting in the silence between. Its jaws were its most incredible feature. With a sudden opening and a snap that could crush bone in milliseconds, Dunkleosteus had one of the strongest bites ever known. Yet it did not chase endlessly. Like most predators, it likely used short bursts of speed and sudden ambushes to catch further fish, smaller armored creatures, even its own kind. The body of Dunkleosteus was likely less armored than the head. Its tail and torso may have been smooth and flexible, built for gliding. Scientists believe that it was not a constant swimmer, but a slow mover, waiting for the right time to strike. It may have hovered near the ocean floor, where shadows blended into sand, where it could hide beneath the dim light and then launch upward in a flash. Though powerful, it lived in a world of balance. Coral reefs, early sharks, trilobites, and strange soft-bodied animals filled the oceans with motion. There were no whales, no dolphins, no marine reptiles yet. Cleosteus ruled a quiet kingdom, one made not of roaring or chaos, but of steady rhythm currents, tides, and the slow passage of time. Fossils of Dunkleosteus are often found in North America and parts of Europe. The bones that remain are mostly from the armored head, as the rest of its body made of softer cartilage, rarely fossilized. Still, what we do have tells a patient story: the grooves in its jaw, the smooth edges of its armor, the way its bones fit together like pieces of an ancient puzzle. It was not built for fear or destruction. It was built for survival, and for a long time, it succeeded. Dunkleosteus lived near the end of the Devonian period, and like many creatures of its time, it eventually disappeared. The oceans began to change. New species evolved, old ones faded, and slowly, quietly, Dunkleosteus vanished. It left no descendants. Its lineage ended with it. But its legacy remains in stone the fossil halls of museums, in the memories of ancient seabeds now turned to rock, and in the quiet imaginations of those who pause to wonder what the world once looked like when giants swam below the waves. As you rest now, you can imagine floating above a shallow reef in a calm Devonian sea. The water is warm, and sunlight filters through in soft rays. Below you, a slow shape moves, not fast, not threatening, just present, smooth, gliding form, its armored head catching the light in dull reflections, its jaws closed, its body steady. This is not a chase. It is not a hunt. It is simply motion. Quiet, predictable, timeless. Dunkleosteus drifts beneath you, then slowly turns and fades into the murky distance. There is no sound but the gentle pull of the current, the rhythm of your breath, and the steady beat of time beneath the waves. Even the strongest jaws eventually rest. Even the fiercest forms of life must sleep. Let that knowledge calm you now. Let it carry you into deeper stillness. And as you fall into sleep, know that the world once held such creatures not to frighten, but to remind us how rich and strange the past truly was, and how beautiful the silence that follows can be. Long before mammals walked the land, before birds filled the skies, and even before fish grew bones, there was another kind of world one, ruled by creatures that no longer exist in any familiar form. This was the time of the ancient arthropods, and among them, one of the largest and most mysterious was Echolopterus, prehistoric sea scorpion that swam through muddy, brackish waters over 390 million years ago. Despite its name, Echolopterus was not a true scorpion, and it did not live in the sea as we know it today. Instead, it inhabited the murky, shallow environments of early Earth coastal lagoons its deltas and estuaries where salt water mixed with fresh. Its world was dark, humid, and silent. The land nearby was barren, with no grass, no flowers, and no forests. The only life above water was simple mosses, fungi, and early plants clinging to rocks. And beneath the surface, Jackalopterus moved. This creature was part of a group known as Eurypterids, distant relatives of modern scorpions and horseshoe crabs. While most Eurypterids were small, only a few inches long, Jackalopterus was an exception. It was a giant. Some estimates suggest it grew over 8 feet long, making it one of the largest arthropods to have ever existed. Its body was flat and segmented, covered in a hard exoskeleton that helped protect it from predators and support it in the dense underwater environment. It had large pincers that could seize and hold prey. Its eyes were compound and set near the front of its head, offering a wide view of its surroundings. And it had long swimming paddles, allowing it to glide gently through the water or push itself across the silty bottom. Despite its size, Jackalopterus was not a fast hunter. It likely moved with slow, steady grace, using its limbs to sense vibrations, its pincers to feel for movement, and its body to press through water with quiet control. It was a patient predator, perhaps even an ambush specialist, resting still in the shadows and then springing forward only when food passed close by. Its prey may have included early fish, trilobites, and other soft-bodied marine animals. But Jackalopterus did not bite or chew in the way we think of today. Instead, it would grab, hold, and crush its prey with the sharp inner edges of its pincers, then pull it toward a small mouth tucked beneath its armor. There, it could slowly break down the meal in a way that required little movement, little noise, and no rush. It did not roar or growl. It did not chase with fury. It moved to the slow rhythms of the prehistoric sea. The waters it swam in were rich with life, though most of it would seem alien to us. Shelled creatures drifted near the bottom. Strange, jawless fish moved in schools. Small worms wriggled in the mud, and clusters of ancient algae waved gently with the current. It was a world without color, as we know its soft browns, dark greens, and pale blues mixed in a haze of light filtered through shallow water and sediment. And within that world, Jackalopterus was a quiet force. Not the fastest, not the smartest, but large, efficient, and perfectly suited for its time. Like all arthropods, it had to molt its exoskeleton to grow. This meant it would occasionally retreat to a safe place, shed its outer shell, and emerge soft and vulnerable before hardening again. These molted shells are part of what scientists have found in the fossil record, scattered in layers of rock across parts of Europe. What remains of Jackalopterus today are fossil impressions, fine outlines of its body pressed into ancient stone. No color, no eyes, no scent of the water it swam through, its shape and structure. And from that, we've pieced together the memory of a creature that once owned its space without ever making a sound. It lived for millions of years, largely unchanged. It had no reason to evolve quickly. The ecosystem around it moved slowly, the water temperatures steady, the oxygen levels high enough to support such large invertebrates. But then, something changed. Near the end of the Devonian period, life on Earth faced a series of quiet but devastating extinction events. The seas began to shift, oxygen levels in the water dropped. New predators emerged, especially fish with strong jaws and faster swimming speeds. Over time, Jackalopterus disappeared, not with a crash, not with a moment of dramatic extinction, but slowly, quietly, a few less every generation, till they were gone. They left no direct descendants. No modern creature is quite like them. Their legacy lives on only in stone. But in that silence, there is something peaceful, something beautiful. So tonight, let yourself drift back into that ancient water. Close your eyes and imagine you are floating just above the seafloor in a shallow prehistoric lagoon. The water is calm and slightly warm. The light above is soft, filtered through mist and sediment. Tiny particles drift like snowflakes all around you. Key, and beneath you, slowly moving through the gloom, is Jackalopterus. It glides with ease, its paddles stirring the water with grace. Its body sways gently as it moves past tall underwater plants and smooth stones. You feel no fear. There is no reason to worry. This creature does not know you, and you are not its prey. You are simply sharing the same space for a brief, quiet moment. It slows, then stops. Its pincers open, then fold, settles into the sand, eyes half closed, resting. And you rest too. Stillness around you deepens. The pulse of the ocean slows. Your breath grows quieter, your body lighter. There is no sound, no movement, only the memory of motion in the shape of time long past. Jackalopterus no longer rules the waters, but in this moment, as you drift closer to sleep, it keeps you company. An ancient guardian of silence, a relic of calm. It reminds you that the world is full of stories, some loud, some brief, and some so old and gentle that only sleep can truly carry them. Let this one carry you now. Now that our journey has come to an end, let us pause and reflect on the ancient world we've gently wandered through together. We've traveled through time, from the skies ruled by Quetzalcoatlus to the dark rivers washed over by Dinosuchus, to the shallow seas where Dunkleosteus and Jackalopterus once moved in silence. We've stood beside giants like Gigantopithecus in the forest and stepped carefully across the frozen plains where Smilodon waited, patient and still. In each story, we did not rush. We simply listened. These were not monsters, not villains of the past, but living beings, each one adapted to its time, shaped by the rhythm of its world. They were strong, yes, and sometimes strange, but they were also quiet, purposeful, part of a long, winding story that stretches back far beyond anything we can remember. Many of these creatures no longer have a place in today's ecosystems, and perhaps that is for the best. A world filled with animals this large, this powerful, would not suit the calm lives we try to build today. But they existed once, and their time mattered. In their silence, they offer us peace. In their disappearance, they leave behind space for imagination, for wonder, and for rest. Fossils are not loud. They do not scream their stories. They whisper, they wait. And in that waiting, they remind us that life is always changing, always moving forward, and always returning to stillness. Perhaps that's why hearing about these animals can feel comforting. It's not because they are gone, but because they remind us that the world is much older and much slower than it often feels. So now, as your eyes grow heavier and your thoughts drift like silt in ancient waters, take one last breath with these quiet creatures. Feel the stillness they bring. Let their memory carry you a little further away from the noise of today. Imagine a quiet plain, or a calm sea, or a warm forest path. You walk without worry. No one follows. No sound chases you. There are only distant shapes, drifting slowly, long gone but never forgotten. And now, even they fade. There is nothing more to see, nothing more to remember. Only rest. Sleep well now. You have wandered far, and the past, with all its strange and beautiful animals, will still be there whenever you need it again.